Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today I have with me a special guest from, I guess, pretty cleanly straight south of me. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'm Martin Amaris, and I have Metaplayer Studio, um, which is a little indie game company I started, and I'm working on a game called SHAPELAND, and it was in the Steam Next Fest recently. Um, but yeah, it's called SHAPELAND.
No, absolutely. So, for people who have never heard of it or maybe didn't get a chance to check it out on Steam Next Fest, what is Shapeland? So, like, to give people an idea, obviously, I usually like to keep like the Steam page kind of up on one of my monitors, just kind of giving that stuff. And I'm literally just seeing like shapes chucked everywhere. So I'm very curious, kind of, if someone just saw this, how would you describe what is Shapeland?
Well, it's a 3D world with various shapes floating around, and some of them are crawling around. And the player has to navigate their way through that. And the whole world is in a glass box, so to speak, and it's like a puzzle box. You have to open portals to get from one area to another, and then later in the game, you start lowering walls that open up the space, and and you have to figure out what shapes do what. Some of the shapes are bad, and you don't want to touch them, or the round is over. And other shapes give you points or trophies. And mostly, it's just about a lot of fun floating through a kind of beautiful world with colored shapes floating around, and it gets pretty chaotic at times. But you can play it slow and be stealthy about it, or you can sort of rush through it and have all the chaos going on.
So we kind of talked a minute here before we got on about like kind of like how this kind of just like happened and like you thought of marketing later and stuff. What were you aiming to kind of like when you started just like sitting down in a game engine and started just writing these shapes everywhere? Was there something you had like a vision in mind? Was it more like a tech demo that evolved? Kind of what was the evolution of this game?
Well, it kind of started with me. I have a history of doing computer animations, old style, and I I wanted to upgrade my software, so I ended up running into Unreal Engine. And when I was fooling with that, I realized it could be interactive and that you could make a game with it. So so my inspiration really was I wanted to make a game that felt like you were inside of Candy Crush, down inside the board with all the things exploding all around you. So that's how it started. And, it's like I started aiming for that. I made a beautiful landscape world where all this would happen. And then I found out that I made it too rich and too detailed, and I didn't have any computer power for actually putting the actors in. So I had to trash all that, and then I made a simplified landscape that I kind of think of as like a miniature golf, like miniature golf compared to actual nature. I had to strip down everything and go with a very simple landscape in order to have all those various shapes and actors moving around in there. So it was basically like let's be inside of Candy Crush with all that chaos.
No, it's interesting. So like inside Candy Crush is a that's an interesting one to kind of think of, right? Because obviously like you have all that kind of going through around. Like so, I'm watching on my one screen. I said there I have your Steam page up, and I'm watching like your video on Steam, and I'm just seeing these shapes chuck everywhere. Kind of you're trying to get around. What is kind of I guess the limiting thing? Can you die from these shapes? Is it kind of you have health? What am I kind of missing of like what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. It's I I made it very simple because it's the first time I ever tried using code to write a game, and so there's no weapon upgrades and there's no health bar or any of that. If you come in contact with with a bad shape, then the round is over and you're sent to what I call the trophy room. And I don't have the trophy room showing in any of the trailers on Steam, but when the round is over, you're in the trophy room and you can see how many points you got and how many trophies you got. And through that, you can then enter the game again and be a little better at what you're doing. You slowly find out which items are trophies, which items give you a lot of points, and which things are the bad ones. So you die a lot, so to speak. Somebody described it as a knowledge mania, where you have to learn things as you go, and every time you play, you get a little further and a little better at what you're doing.
It being a knowledge one is what makes it, I think, funnier to me. Just because, like, and actually,
Yeah.
that's a good way to say. Because, like, to me, the mania, like any of those, right, so Metroidvania stuff, like, the knowledge is there, but like the big version of them is like there's the unlocking, and then kind of like there's a lot of those either there's some memorization or there's some unlocking. This, this is interesting because like you correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like from the beginning you have everything. It's just you don't know what everything is.
Right. Yes. But the exception would be the keys to the portals that allow you to go from one area to another are randomly spawned each time you play. So you're never sure exactly where the key to the portal will be. You have to find it. And there is a little bit of a help. I have cinematics opening each level where the camera flies around in the level for a few seconds, and then you're spawned in to play. And while the cinematic is going, you can sometimes see where that key is. Because the key gets spawned about midway up in the air, and so it's falling down as the cinematic's going. There's another goal in the game. Like the main goal is to get the highest number of points.
Right.
And to do that, you have to eventually learn the strategy. There's some objects that if you shoot at them over water, then all the money that falls out of them will get destroyed in the water. And you can't pick it up anyway, because if you get in deep water, you drowned and you go back to the trophy room. So the other goal of the game is to get to the end the fastest. And in order to do that, you do want to know where those keys are falling. So you watch the cinematic at the beginning of the level, and maybe you can see where the key is. And if you do, you can go right to it and get it, and then you can go through the portal and get through the whole thing fast in order to get the fastest time.
What is the fastest that you've done or seen someone do it?
It takes about, if everything goes well and you're pretty lucky about finding the keys, you can get through the whole thing in about 8 to 10 minutes. But that's really rushing through it. And if you're wanting high points, then you can use stealth and strategy, and you try to survive as long as you can in each level. You want to spend the whole night in each level. There's a time cycle going all the time, and if you survive in level 1 long enough, you can see the sun go down, other shapes come out, give you more points. When the sun comes up, there's some great big objects that spawn, and those are worth a lot of money. So if you were going after high points, you could literally be in the game for hours and hours, hoping not to get killed.
I was about to say that's the big thing, right? Is you take one hit and you're dead. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm curious, kind of. So obviously, I'm assuming you've done the age-old of games like this, like we all do. Where you just kind of run it forever, or have people just kind of play as long as they can. How kind of have you noticed anything like after so much time, players either tend to mess up or they tend to does the game just difficulty ramp or that just tends to be a natural like people tend not to get past a point time wise, or is it more like a if you get the flow, you've seen people go probably some wild times?
Yeah, I think as you get better at the game, you can survive longer. And what normally gets people that are playing the game, say they're trying to have high points, so they want to be in there as long as they can and get everything in the right order and that sort of thing. What usually gets them is greed. They'll they'll come across a shape that you have to hit. Like one of the shapes is a 0 that's floating around, and when you shoot at it, a 1 is spawned, and if you shoot at that, then 2 2s are spawned, and then if you hit one of the 2s, 3 3s are spawned, and it goes all the way up to 9, and 9 is the only one worth points. So you have to hit the 2 and then the 3 and then the 4 all the way to 9, and when you get to 9, you get a whole lot of points. So it's really valuable. But you get carried away doing that. Your attention turns to hitting that next number, and they're all flying out. When they spawned, they don't just stay in the same place; they're moving. So if you get all if you want to hit the 9 and get a lot of points, you can get distracted by doing that, and then you'll get hit by one of the bad balls or one of the crawling shapes. So that's what I found is if you're paying attention and being kind of stealthy, you can survive a long time. But often you get hung up going after a treasure and you lose yourself, and then you get hit and it's the end of the round.
What is the most frustrated you've been dying? I'm assuming you've done the like trying to go do a thing and all of a sudden like getting smashed. Have you started? Do you still make those dumb mistakes, kind of like when you're hit by random stuff, or have you gotten more to the flow?
Well, I'm pretty good at it. I'm probably the best at it in the world because I've played it more than anyone else, and I also know all the secrets, how to get through the puzzles and stuff. But yeah, I'll get killed various ways. I'll be hanging out in one area because the major enemies are these very big black and white spheres that float around, and they're not coming after you. They just bounce around in there randomly, but they can you can have something you want to get at, and there's 5 or 6 of those in that area. So the idea is to wait, do something else, or just hang out and wait for them to drift away and then go get that thing. And sometimes when you try that, you're also aware of, the physics is really accurate, the way Unreal has set up their behavior physics. So you can kind of look at a whole bunch of balls that are arcing and curving through the air and figure that none of them are really coming after you right now and that you're safe in a certain area. But then what might happen is one of those balls that's gently falling away from you might get hit by something else and propelled right to you. And so you kind
I have to say that good old like physics where they all hit each other, yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of things happen unexpectedly. I think it's one of the best things about the game is it has a life of its own. All these things are moving around regardless of whether you're playing the game or not. And it's all kind of random and based on physics. There are a couple of enemies that come after you. They have the AI, and they attack you. And all the bad things make noise. Everything's got a audio. Not every shape in the game, but the bad ones for sure have a sound they generate. So you can kind of hear if something's getting close to you, like behind you. And you can look around and sometimes have enough time to dodge out of the way or shoot it. The bad shapes are designed to where if you shoot at them, they break into other bad shapes, but they usually spread out. And like say if a giant white ball is coming right toward you, you could shoot it and you have a good chance that the cubes that it spawns will fly away in other directions. And then actually those cubes land on the ground and they don't move anymore, but they'll still kill you if you touch them.
Interesting. Did you ever think of like when you were going through that and did you ever think of like something that when they hit the ground to kill them? Did you always want them to be like almost like a mine-like device?
Everything evolved. I started off by just floating the enemy shapes and having a few goals. And then as I kept working on the game, it just evolved into its present state. I couldn't have thought of this game from scratch on paper. I had to just start doing it, and then deleting things that didn't work, and trying this out, and you know, keeping the things I liked, and other ideas would occur to me that I'd add, and you know, it was like that. And I think I ended up with a pretty good game because it was kind of intuitive and evolved to what it was, rather than having a set plan that I worked toward.
I was about to say, and then correct me if I'm wrong. You said going into this, right? So this is your first, at least Unreal. Is this your first like game you're making from scratch, also?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm curious,
I
kind of.
had, like I,
Oh no, go on.
yeah, go ahead. Well, my whole career was as a painter, and I taught painting in college for years and years, along with drawing and such. And I also started computer animation programs at two universities, University of New Mexico and the Sam Houston State University in Texas. And that
Wow.
was old school animation where, you know, you deal with keyframes and you're setting up 3D models and lights and stuff, but nothing's interactive. It's just you end up rendering it into a movie, basically.
I was gonna
And
say.
so I had experience doing all that. And I even taught some handmade film classes in college for a while. That was fun. But so when I when I came across Unreal, and it dawned on me that it would be interactive and you could do a game, that was really my first time doing that, and my first time using code. There, in old school computer animation, there isn't really any code. It's, you know, we were just users. The software is already set up to do what you want it to do. We didn't have to write any code.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm actually curious. Then obviously you walked in, then obviously at least understanding how those animation softwares work or the stuff like that. Looking back, especially as now that you've worked on this for a while, is there anything you wish you knew about Unreal, kind of going into this, that would have changed maybe how you design stuff or built the game?
Yeah, I'm sure it would have, if I had known coding, like C++, say, um, it would have changed the whole approach probably, and I would have ended up with a game, but maybe not this game. This game has a lot to do with kind of what I wanted to achieve, like the being inside Candy Crush. A lot of colors, a lot of stuff exploding and moving and all that. Um, but and I would have hung on to that. But a lot of the things that actually came out in Shapeland came out because of me having to solve a problem. Like like there's some things that I attempted to do and then I just couldn't figure it out, or it, you know, like multiplayer, for instance. About halfway through the first, maybe I should back up a little and just say that my first attempt at making a game on Unreal, after 3 months, I threw everything away. I realized, yeah, that's the answer to your question, in fact. If I had known coding when I started the game, I would have probably gone for my first iteration of it. But instead, I wrote for 3 months and I had something that looked pretty decent. But then I realized I was doing everything wrong, that it was too much code. I was taking too many. So, like if it was a conversation, I was taking too many words to express a simple idea. So I had to throw everything away. And then I started again. And then 3 months later, I threw everything away again. And
This sounds like the
but each
classic you're learning to make moment.
Yeah, I was, you know, and there's no manual for Unreal. They have some documentation from the Unreal company, but I don't think it's very good, and it has gotten better over the last couple of years. But
And also, like,
I,
as
I
someone who's
look,
dealt with a bunch of technical documentation, as you'd probably agree with, kind of looking at the Unreal one, it's like it tells you how to do things, but it doesn't tell you this is the thing you need to do.
yeah, like it lists all the words, but it doesn't tell you the grammar.
Or it lists all the words, but it doesn't tell you, oh, do it in this circumstance. It just says this is how you solve this type of problem, not when you have, like, doesn't tell you you have this type of problem. So it's still like a,
Yeah,
you have to be like, okay, I think this is roughly my bug. How do I find this fix?
Yeah. And so it was, you know, searching on YouTube and forums. I joined Discord. And I learned a lot from a couple of Unreal channels on Discord and YouTube. And it was just little bits at a time. And I'd have ideas in the game that I had to scrap because I realized I didn't have the skill to write that. For instance, and I never really, I wanted to have a really simple game that even a kid could play. So there's hardly any keyboard controls. But if I had known more, I might have put in health bars and ways of where you didn't get killed right away, but you'd get damaged. And when you finally got enough damage, then you'd die. And I didn't do any of that because it's very complicated.
No, that makes a ton of sense.
So it's kind of like a painting. Like, you make the painting you can make. Like,
but you're always working towards the painting you want to make. Yeah, no, I completely understand that part.
Yeah, there's the painting you want, and then there's the painting you can do. And somewhere in between is what you end up with.
No, that is absolutely true. And on that note, the game we've been talking about here is SHAPELAND. As we said, you are part of Meta Player Studio. Currently, you can go wishlist SHAPELAND on Steam. It says it comes out Q2 of this year. Is that still what you're thinking?
Yeah,
So
probably in a month or two, but before the end of the quarter.
And then do you have a price in mind, or are you still kind of determining it?
Well, I was hoping to get more feedback from people that I didn't get, but right now I'm thinking $20, and it'll debut with a $10% discount on Steam.
Perfect. Well, again, the game is SHAPELAND. You can go wishlist it right now. As you heard here, it should be about $20 with a sale, hopefully at launch. Go check that out. But otherwise, go wishlist the game. It helps a ton. It'll help you, I'm assuming, get all of your feedback and hopefully players early in the game. I do want to say best of luck as you are finishing and heading towards launch. Is there anything else we feel like we missed during this conversation?
Oh, probably not. Not really. It could, like anything, we could talk forever about it, but this pretty much covers it, I guess.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, talking again. The game is SHAPELAND. Go check it out on Steam, your Meta Player Studio, and best of luck as you finishing up development.
Hey, thanks, Mike.